companies who are operating in Europe, they are facing these difficulties to take their proof of concept, take their MVPs to production because of these challenges that we see. That's not only in case of Europe. In the United States, it's more tech savvy. US में startup कुछ बोलते हैं लोग, तो ना बच जाओगे, वहाँ बहुत सारे regulations हैं, there are still regulations, but at least you can raise funds, you can make money. That's why we choose US. Get my point. So I think if you go to US also, you will have this kind of trouble, but you will be able to manage it in certain ways, right? So I think that's very important to know. The risk and compliance landscapes are very important based on geography. Very good. All right, reputation. How many of you use 100 people because they don't have such much of content moderations on explicit content and so on and so forth? Good for humans in small quantity. See, steroids can also be good. If you are going through really bad disease or deadly diseases, right? You need steroids to correct something. I have been on that, so I know about it. But then you have to pass the message in a better way, right? You cannot actually say poison is good. So guardrails kidhar hai? Where are the guardrails in the system? No pre-processing guardrails, no post-processing guardrails, and we're going to cover that. And I'm coming to the architecture. We can solutions banane ke liye. How to create a solution, right? Let me go to next. All right, let's start now. Enough of GAN. We go into a bit more intricate details of how to build systems. I think when you are taking a generative AI project in enterprise, it will not be a single layered approach. It will be a multi-layered approach. You have to start with data layer. Data is the key. Nowadays people are not talking about data diagram. When we started our career 7-8 years back, हम डरते थे. Data science कर रहे हैं, data science. आपको clean data यार. Thousands of GBs of data कैसे clean होएगा? How do we create a data pipeline? अभी क्या है? You have so much of tools, so much of high-level abstraction layer that LangChain has created or any other frameworks have created. Just put your data there, it automatically cleans it for you. You're getting my point? So I think that first is the data layer. How do you handle data? If you are working with a very regulatory industry and if you think that you can't use the client data, then take the route that Cognida has taken, synthetic data. Focus on synthetic data, first do validation. पहले synthetic data का sample बनाओ. If anyone of you taking notes, I can tell you how you can create synthetic data very quickly. So open source process करते हैं. Open source you can use Argila. Argila is the only way right now, which is the best way I say to create synthetic data out of LLM. Use Argila, which is a module called distillable. You can create LLMs using any model. You can create synthetic data using any LLM. And then if you go to closed source, you don't have that much of coding capabilities. But I believe not everybody is a coding expert like Kalyan here. So I think some of you can use Gretel, a European company, Gretel. Gretel helps you create synthetic data as well. So if you want to create synthetic data, use those platforms very quickly. The next is once you have data, okay, I have created a data pipeline, I can do migration from legacy to cloud wherever it is required for your generative AI system. Then you go into model layer, you start with selecting LLMs, building architectures, chatbot. Then you look at LLM ops, Gen.AI ops, right? The ops part is very important. We're going to cover it in the last slide. You do infrastructure, you use API. If you are on AWS, you will use Lambda. If you are on Azure, you will use Azure functions. If you are on GCP, you will use cloud functions. If you want to do it yourself, you write code in Python, create functions, deploy it somewhere. So I think API and orchestrations are important. Then next is trust layer, the most important layer for enterprises. Bringing up guardrails, content moderation. So I'll give an example. So I built a system for a Japanese client, and I was translating something from English to Japanese. In English, the sentence was very good, had no problem. But when I translated to Japanese, it was explicit. Ganda meaning ho raha tha. So English to Japanese. So you have to bring different content moderation layer. One of the guardrails example. Somebody asked a question like, I have built a chatbot for medical data, and somebody comes and says, how to cook a pizza. So करना देना चाहिए क्या? Do we do that? Or should we put guardrails? If somebody asks any question which is out of my domain, I will restrict that. So those are the guardrails examples that will bring trust. You have to bring guardrails, different policies, and then you go into business layer, looking at the ops part of it. कितना खर्चा हो रहा है? How much is going to cost me? For after a 1 year usage, 60,000 from 100,000 employees. How is it going to cost me? How do I handle it? How do we optimize prompts to keep the token cost lesser? How do I measure carbon footprint? Everything that you do has carbon footprint accessibility, right? Which is correct. So enterprises have to focus on cost, they have to focus on ROI, they have to focus on sustainability, they have to focus on certain other things. So I think this is how you should take it. You should take a multi-layered approach. For each layer, you should keep transparency when you're talking to the client stakeholders. उनको सब कुछ बताओ. वरना बाद में they will just do a lawsuit to you. They will charge compensation if you do something wrong. Can you go next? We have less time. I'm going a bit quick. My framework, burger framework.
I love it.
Sunday morning breakfast. इधर ही आसपास में ही है. So slides will be available, by the way, guys. If you want to take it, just ping me. I'll forward it. You don't have to take pictures. Ideate, rapid experimentations, execute. Very simple thing. पहले ideate करो. Use cases कैसे select करोगे? Use cases select करने के लिए आप different criteria. I have this framework. Use cases select करने के लिए market expansion क्या है? Cost कितना लगेगा? Scale कर सकते हो या नहीं? Can you scale that use case? How much is going to cost you? Is it going to be a cultural difference within the organization? And so on and so forth, right? That's how you select use cases. Then you have LLM selection. This guy said right about LLM selection. What did he say? Use cases selection, right? Right? You have different variables. Then you select use cases, and then you select use cases. Then you go to LLM selection. Once you have this, then you define the ROI. Metrics define करते हैं कि after 1 year of usage, I need 32% efficiency gain. I need 50% efficiency gain. My customer experience will be enhanced. So those are the KPIs that you should note it down. For ROI framework, they are the ideate phase. You have done the ideation. 2-3 रूम में बैठ के पिज्जा आ गया टेबल पे आप अपने में रीडिंग पिज्जा and आप अपने में brainstorming and writing it down. That's how it happens in enterprises, right? In meetings. Then you go into rapid experimentation. You select the use cases and then you build up MVP and then you give it to the hand of testers. If you look at how Google does it or how OpenAI does it, whenever they come up with a new feature, they don't immediately release it. They announce that we have built something and our testers are using it. They call it Trusted Partner Program. That's a very high quality enterprise. When you start something, launch something, they first test it for 2 or 3 weeks, right? That's what they do. And then you go and execute. So one statement, some of you guys are Telugu, right? How many of you are Telugu here? So Konnect-Ai has done a great, work in Andhra. And when he was campaigning, he said bye bye Jagan. That was his one line statement. Everybody used to ask him, any media person, Jagan के लिए क्या बोलोगे? बोला था bye bye Jagan. So my online statement is that take a platform approach. If you're working in enterprise and if you want to work with it, you need platforms for all of these. You need experimentation platform, so you can experiment it faster. You can give it to your internal employees or the developers or testers. They can experiment it. You need a data platform, bring all the data in a centralized system. If you can't bring in all in a centralized system, because if C is from marketing and if C is from procurement, they will find, they'll say, I'm not going to share my data to you. Then you need a decentralized system. कि data आपके पास रख, embeddings मेरे को दे दो. I don't know if you guys know about embedding, the vectorization of data. Right? So the data platform. Then you need a developer platform. How will developers build this solution? They need a platform to build it. Right? I think they talked about. Sir, what did you say? Zuno, right? So they have their own platform that they use it for different purposes. Then you need developer platform as well. Right? So I think take this burger framework. If you're working in an enterprise, ideate, experiment, and execute. Of course, you can make some other pizza framework बना सकते हो after that. Then I will do a copyright now if you use my framework. So pizza framework बनाओ or build some other framework. Can we go? Last couple of slides are a little bit fast. I'll keep this a bit quick. I've talked about it. Different rails बनाना पड़ेगा. Reliable AI markup language. That's the full form of rail. Okay, basically, your guardrails. You bring different guardrails in systems. कि आपको PII डेटा इन्फॉर्मेशन हटाना है, then you have pre-processing guardrails. You can data set, bring all the PII information. कि सोनू की प्राइस कितनी है, कल्याण का एज कितना है, you have to remove all from the data set. So building something, right? So they are personal information. You cannot give it to anybody. You have to bring different guardrails, fact checking, you've got hallucinations, sources, citations, references, similarity scores, so on and so forth. You have to bring different guardrails, bring a trusted framework. You can have nowadays we are using Bing search. I don't know if you guys have heard of it. Bing search है, Taglai है, DuckDuckGo है, Brave search and so on and so forth. Right? So you can always use this to validate something on internet as well. If you're talking about some statistics, some numbers, etc. Right? So I think you build a trusted AI framework in your enterprise with the burger framework. Take a framework approach, take a platform approach. If you are trying to tackle any use cases in enterprise. I think it's the last slide. I think I'll skip this. I think I've talked about it. Yeah, this is the last slide. Very high level architecture. Keep it simple. And there can be different other variants of this. Okay. कोई इस वाले पार्ट को इधर कर दिया, फिर इस वाले उधर कर दिया. You can do that. Okay. request you not to put it on social media, keep it for internal purposes. Exit this slide. If you look at this, right, we start with use cases and data assembly. So you have identified the use cases through different workshops. वो discovery sessions होता है. Unique of enterprise. So you spend some on-site expenses, that time or also. So एक workshop करते हैं the client, and then we go into a room and discuss about use cases identification. And once we have that, we create a data marketplace. For example, you have different data sources. If you're working with AI tools, ServiceNow, Jira, Confluence, so on and so forth, right? You bring all of those. If you're solving a ticketing system, for example, a chat bot for ticketing system, let's take that use case, right? So you bring all the data marketplace here. Then you go into LLM selection. You select the LLM, and then you go into prompt templates, chaining or RAG or agents and fine tuning, so on and so forth. And then you come into the main part. You guys have done it, I think, this part at least. RAG तक तो बनाए रहे हो सब, जिसको AI में interest है. इसके बारे में बात करेंगे. Let's talk about responsible AI input. How do you bring content moderation, filters? How do you do prompt validation? Prompt optimization is the key. So I was working with a big client in US, and we helped them reduce 35% of their token cost just by compressing the prompt. If anybody wants to compress, we छोटा कर रहे हैं prompt. If anybody wants to do that, look at LLM Lingua by Microsoft to compress prompts, and we use that for responsible AI input. We go into model pipeline CI/CD. You're working with GitHub CI/CD or Azure CI/CD or Kubernetes CI/CD लगा दिया कुछ भी कर रहा है. Whatever you feel like, whatever stack you guys are using, feel free to do that. Then we go into model marketplace. So this is important. Now C is from marketing team and C is from procurement, and her team has built something. Why can't I give it to procurement team as well? So they can also leverage the same thing. So we can bring everything in a marketplace, and that's how it happens in enterprise. In CAP, we had a centralized repository of prompts, 80,000 prompts in Capgemini, 200 use cases, and around 22 models that is into the marketplace. Anybody can go and test it out immediately. So you have to bring everything in the marketplace. Of course, you have to manage the models, versioning, and if you're updating something, you have to do version control, so on and so forth, right? And then content moderation guardrail again for responsible AI output. The output you are getting, you have to validate if that is making sense to the user or not. So that's important. And then you do continuous feedback. You have to take continuous feedback. You guys have heard about RLSA. PKI RLSA, user is loading their rate. You want about RLSA. Everybody has that. So I was talking to a guy. He said, "We are doing RLSA." मैंने कहा इसमें क्या बात हो? तुमने RLSA के बारे में बोल दिया. OpenAI can do RLSA. People sitting here they can't do RLSA. It's the cost thing. OpenAI hired people in Africa, $9 per hour, some Kenyan guys because they don't have employment. They hired them. They asked them to do data annotation of their large corpus. 2-3 महीने के डेटा लेके फीडबैक लेके RLSA नहीं कर सकते ना. RLSA करना है तो millions GBs के डेटा सेट्स लगेंगे to do RLSA, right? So be very clear. See, the most important thing about generative AI nowadays, people talking a lot of hype. So when it comes to value, after 2 months they will be valid. तो पैसा वैसा लेके फाइबर पे अपलोड को फ्रीलांसिंग करते हैं भाग जाते हैं. उनसे होता नहीं है, ऐसे ही. So be very clear, be very careful when you're dealing with these kind of people. So LLM all आएगा and you do any cloud. Azure open करना use करना तो करो. If you have to use AWS, do it. If you have to use GCP, do it. Do whatever you do. So just to summarize it, take a platform approach, build frameworks. How I don't talk gas. Not going to help you in enterprise. Like working for Google and Microsoft of the world, right? We need framework. Use cases कैसे select करते हो, different LLMs, different architectures. I can build a same chatbot in 100 other ways. I can do self query. I can do multimodal agent. I can do hybrid search and so on and so forth. So build frameworks. These are the frameworks I am going to choose to implement this use case, and this is how I am going to measure the value. The efficiency case हुआ है, enhancement हुआ कि client experience बढ़ा कि नहीं. This is how you guys should do. I'll take a few minutes and see if there are any questions before I hand it over. Too much for one person to go on.
How do you get to the new
Use case, very nice. Now I give you an example. Let's take simplifying the conversation between an underwriter and an insurance agent. तो LIC पता है इंडिया में LIC के एजेंट घूमते रहते थे. LIC के स्कीम बेचते थे ज़्यादा बेटा, राइट? तो यूएस में यही होता है. यूएस में you can take insurance directly, but there are agents to help you get insurance, right? In US. Now there is an underwriter sitting Agents have a lot of questions about certain policies, and they go to underwriters and they get the answer. If this is your use case, you have to look at different variables. The first variable is the data में complexity कितना है, how complex the data which is associated with it. So यहाँ पे है policy document, which might not be that complex. So first variable is complexity in data. The second variable is, do I have enough budget to solve this problem? Scale कर सकते हैं. Then you look at the scaling part of it. Then you look at the market expansion हो सकता है. Can I expand it to market? If it's for external use. So there are different variables. I think then also look at carbon. Sustainability वाले भी देखो कितना carbon accessibility है. I think I have a list. I can share that with you. I'm happy to share. I have 10 variables that I decide each case.
How can we measure your complexity in the data?
Just could you please repeat the question? Repeat for the benefit of everyone. For everyone.
How do we know complexity of the data? Like,
Yeah, ये तो very open-ended question. Okay, complexity of data depends on कि cleaning time कितना है, कुछ इसमें sensitive info. Do you have a sensitive information? Now the time is going to take me. Is there a direct data connectivity, or I have to migrate from a legacy system to my cloud, or I have to bring it in my system? How big the data is? Do I have compute to clean the data? Now, if you have big data sitting somewhere in Hadoop or H5 or wherever, can you load that in your system? So there are a lot of other variables that you consider for data complexity. But it's a very open-ended question. I will be very specific on this.
but here in this LIC case, data will be sensitive and completely complex.
So then you have to remove PII information in the person. See, when you take policy document of any company and if you're building it for internal use, it's a safe data. So policy document already available for all employees, right? So, but not for external consumption. Then you have to ring fence it कि बाहर से कोई use ना कर सके. Get my point?
So guardrail is important. So you talk to guardrail.
Yeah.
How do you guardrail?
Very good question. पहले ये कहते थे. Very good question.
He didn't want to break you.
I think you can do it in two different ways. The one is you can do it on prompt level. In the prompt itself, you can do different prompting techniques like zero sort prompting, few sort prompting, and React and whatever. And then the best thing is that you use an external framework or library like Nemo, for example, which is by NVIDIA. Nemo guardrails. There's one more library by an Indian developer that's called guardrails.ai. Okay, they're competing well with NVIDIA Nemo. So Nemo has guardrails.ai and then 100 others. Now even Langchain has guardrails functionalities. You can do it on prompt level as well, and you can define an XML schema. So the way you define guardrails is in SQL format. जो XML format होता है. Then you define in that way. So you can do it both. Depends on how complex guardrails you want to create. If it's a very simple guardrail, do it on prompt level, which can help you with few sort prompting, and you are done. Any more questions, guys? All right, I think we are good.